What if I told you that disappointing photo you saw on Instagram, the one that made California look mediocre, wasn't California's fault? You were literally sent to the wrong locations. Someone, somewhere decided tourists should suffer through these 7 spots while the real California hides in plain sight. California's got this sidewalk where tourists crouch like they're proposing to concrete. The Hollywood Walk of Fame. Sounds glamorous until you're actually there, dodging someone in a knockoff Spider-Man costume demanding $20 for a blurry photo. Here's what nobody tells you before you go. Those 2,700 stars embedded in the ground, they're not awards, they're purchases. Each one costs $75,000, paid by studios or fan clubs, not talent, money. And the weird part is, huge names are missing. Denzel Washington, no star. George Clooney, nothing. They never applied, never paid. Meanwhile, you're stepping over stars for people you've genuinely never heard of. But wait, it gets better. The average visitor spends under 20 minutes here. Why? Because there's nothing to do. You walk. You look down. You take an awkward squatting photo that makes you look like you're about to tie your shoe. That's the whole experience. I went once, spent more time being pitched mixtapes than actually finding any star I recognized. Let's not forget the neighborhood itself. This area ranks among LA's highest for petty theft. Pickpockets love it here because everyone's staring at the ground, completely distracted, phones out, wallets basically waving hello. The stars themselves can't even handle the abuse. Millions of feet, spilled drinks, and general LA chaos destroy them so fast they need constant replacement. The glamour is literally crumbling beneath your feet. So you've got expensive concrete, aggressive costume characters, missing legends, and a 20-minute photo op surrounded by people trying to sell you things you don't want. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's the thing. Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco might actually be worse. At least Hollywood's honest about being disappointing. Fisherman's Wharf used to actually have fishermen. Now it has exactly 3 working boats and about 400 shops selling the same "I left my heart in San Francisco" t-shirt. The transformation happened slowly, then all at once. What was a genuine waterfront where locals bought fresh catch became a tourist extraction machine that San Franciscans actively avoid. I'm talking Times Square levels of avoidance here. Want clam chowder and a sourdough bread bowl? That'll be $18. Drive 15 minutes to the Sunset District and you'll pay $8 for a better version. But tourists don't know that. They're too busy getting fleeced. Here's the thing nobody tells you. That famous Dungeness crab advertised on every sign, often frozen, often imported. The fresh from local waters promise is about as reliable as a politician's campaign speech. The sea lions at Pier 39 are genuinely entertaining, though. They showed up uninvited in 1990 and refused to leave. Honestly, they're the only authentic thing left. A bunch of loud, smelly animals who don't care about your vacation photos. I respect that energy. And the prices just keep climbing. Street parking runs $8 per hour. The lots charge $40 to $60 daily. You're basically paying premium rates to walk through an outdoor mall that smells like fish and regret. Real San Franciscans haven't eaten here since the 1970s. They know the city has incredible food everywhere else. North Beach, the Mission, Chinatown, places where you're paying for actual quality instead of a view of confused tourists. But here's what frustrates me even more than overpriced crab. There's a pier in Southern California that somehow manages to be worse, and it's literally falling apart. Santa Monica Pier might be the most expensive way to feel disappointed in California. That wooden structure sticking out into the Pacific, it's been there since 1909. And here's a fun fact. The city spends $5 million every single year just keeping it from falling into the ocean. That's not an upgrade budget. That's a please don't collapse budget. But the real joke is Pacific Park. Their tiny Ferris wheel charges $15 for a 5-minute ride. What do you see up there? Smog, bumper-to-bumper traffic on PCH, and views that honestly belong in a documentary about urban decay, not a vacation photo album. Now here's something the tourism brochures won't mention. The beach water near the pier, it consistently fails bacteria tests. Environmental groups have literally given it F grades. You're paying premium prices to swim in what scientists politely call contaminated runoff. And getting there is its own adventure. Parking structures charge $20 to $30. Then you walk 15 minutes through crowds so thick you'd think they were giving away free money. The sand you finally reach, more cigarette butts than actual beach at this point. Those world-famous seafood restaurants lining the pier. I hate to break it to you, but a lot of that fresh catch spent more time in a freezer than a fishing boat. Tourists don't know the difference, so restaurants don't care. During summer weekends, over 8 million annual visitors create crowds where walking the pier's length takes 30 minutes. That's slower than my grandmother moves through a buffet line. The whole place feels like a carnival that forgot to be fun and remembered to be expensive. But at least Santa Monica pretends to have attractions. The next spot on our list doesn't even bother with that. Venice Beach Boardwalk used to be the place where California got weird, and I mean that as a compliment. Bodybuilders, street performers, fortune tellers, guys juggling chainsaws. It was free entertainment that felt genuinely unpredictable. Now, it's basically an outdoor mall with worse parking. The legendary freak show atmosphere has been replaced by $25 knockoff sunglasses and $6 lemonade. That's not a typo. $6 for lemonade. My father would have a heart attack, and honestly, same. And Muscle Beach, the place where Arnold Schwarzenegger literally launched his career, it's a fenced-off patch of rusty equipment where tourists stand around watching nobody. The serious lifters moved to actual gyms years ago. What remains is a museum exhibit without the museum. Here's what really killed Venice, though: rent. When landlords realized they could charge tech money prices, the artists left. The performers left. The weirdos who gave the place its soul packed up and moved somewhere affordable. Who replaced them? Aggressive salespeople pushing CBD products and cheap weed to confuse tourists. But wait, there's some good news buried in here. The skate park is legitimately world-class. Professional skaters still show up. The problem? Tourists standing right on the edge, phones out, blocking runs, and creating near collisions every 30 seconds. The skaters are too polite to say anything. I'm not. Then there's the uncomfortable part nobody puts in the travel guides. Homeless encampments now occupy significant stretches of the beach. $3 million homes sit directly behind people living in tents. That contrast hits different when you're walking through it. What took an hour to explore in the 90s now takes 15 minutes. Most of the character has been commercially sterilized. Speaking of places that charge premium prices for the manufactured experiences, here's the thing about Disneyland. Walt's original vision in 1955, a working-class family could afford it. Today, you'll need a small loan. A single ticket now costs over $200 for one person, one day. That's before you step inside. Add parking at $30. A churro for $8. A turkey leg that costs more than actual turkey at the grocery store. A family of 4? You're looking at $600 minimum just to walk through the gates. And what do you get for that money? Lines. Endless, soul-crushing lines. The average wait for popular rides exceeds 90 minutes. Do the math. In a 12-hour day, you might experience 6 to 8 attractions. That's roughly $25 per ride. I've had cheaper therapy sessions, but wait, there's more. Disney created something called Lightning Lane. For an additional $25 to $35 per person per ride, you can skip the lines. Lines that Disney intentionally made worse so you'd pay to avoid them. It's genius. Really. Evil genius, but genius. During peak season, over 50,000 people squeeze into 85 acres. That's more crowded than most music festivals. Except at festivals, people are happy. The really clever part? Disney engineers every emotion you feel. The buildings use forced perspective to look taller. Hidden vents pump artificial scents. That fresh cookie smell on Main Street, manufactured. The nostalgia hitting you at the castle, carefully designed by psychologists. You're paying $200 to have your feelings scientifically manipulated. Look, I actually love Disneyland. Took my kids 3 times. But let's be honest about what it's become. A theme park for people who consider debt a lifestyle. Speaking of manufactured experiences, let's talk about San Francisco's most photographed disappointment. Let me be honest with you. I visited the Golden Gate Bridge expecting some kind of spiritual experience. What I got was wind so brutal it nearly ripped my phone from my hands and traffic noise loud enough to cause hearing damage. 45 mph gusts are normal here, not occasional. Normal. Add cyclists flying past while aggressively ringing bells at pedestrians, and the peaceful walk you imagined becomes a survival exercise. Here's something most people don't realize. There's basically no parking at either end of the bridge. None. You'll either pay $30 for an Uber or cram into shuttle buses from lots way too far away. The city that built this engineering marvel somehow forgot to add a place to put your car. And that famous orange color? It's actually called International Orange. The paint crew works year-round. The moment they finish painting one end, they go back and start over at the other end. It's basically a full-time job that never stops, but the real disappointment hits when fog rolls in. This happens over 100 days per year. You could plan your entire California trip around visiting this bridge and see nothing but gray soup. Your photos will look like you photographed the inside of a cloud. Oh, and the pedestrian walkway closes at sunset, the most beautiful time to see any landmark, and they lock you out. Here's what nobody tells you. The Golden Gate Bridge is genuinely stunning from far away. Actually, walking across it feels like hiking next to a freeway while fighting hurricane winds. Makes sense, right? Now, speaking of overhyped California destinations, there's one more spot that charges you premium prices for what's basically a beautiful scam. Wine country has some explaining to do. Napa Valley sounds romantic until you see the bill. The average winery tasting now runs $50 to $100 per person. For that price, you get about 6 ounces of wine total. That's roughly what you'd pour yourself at home while making dinner. Except at home, nobody charges you for the privilege of swirling. And here's what really gets me. Over 5 million visitors flood this region annually. What was once quiet farmland now feels like an outdoor shopping mall that happens to have grapes growing nearby. Those estate wines on the menu? Many are made from grapes purchased elsewhere. The tasting rooms care more about your Instagram post than actual winemaking education. I watched a couple spend 20 minutes photographing their glasses before taking a single sip. The wine got warm. Nobody cared. But the real joke is Highway 29 traffic during harvest season. We're talking 2 hours to cover 20 miles. That's slower than walking. You could literally hike to your tasting appointment faster than driving. Restaurant prices assume you're expensing this to some corporation. $40 salads, $200 tasting menus for portions that wouldn't satisfy a moderately hungry child. I once paid $18 for a side of vegetables that fit in my palm. The actual winemakers aren't even pouring your samples. You're getting rehearsed speeches from part-time workers following scripts word for word. Ask them anything off topic and watch the panic set in. Look, the scenery is genuinely stunning. Rolling hills, golden light, beautiful vineyards stretching forever. But you're paying luxury prices for an experience that feels increasingly manufactured. Want incredible California wine country without the pretension and the price gouging? There's a region 3 hours south where winemakers still know your name by your second visit. Point Reyes sits 90 minutes from San Francisco. 90 minutes. And yet, most Golden Gate tourists have never heard of it. This 71,000-acre peninsula juts into the Pacific like California forgot to tell anyone about it. The cliffs drop straight into churning ocean. The beaches stretch empty for miles. Elk herds actually graze in the meadows like you've wandered into some nature documentary. I drove out there expecting a pleasant afternoon hike, stayed until sunset, and genuinely forgot I was still in California. Here's what keeps the crowds away. One road in, one road out. That single fact acts like a natural filter. No tour buses, no Instagram influencers blocking trails for the perfect shot. Just the sound of waves crashing against rocks and wind moving through coastal grass. The lighthouse might be my favorite part. You have to descend 300 stairs to reach it. 300. Most people take one look and decide their vacation doesn't require that kind of commitment. Fair enough. But those of us who make the climb, we get views that would cost $50 anywhere else. Here they're free, and the weird part is you can spot migrating gray whales from shore during winter, no boat tour needed, no seasickness, just stand on the cliffs with coffee and watch massive creatures swim past. Speaking of free, parking costs nothing. Let me say that again for anyone who just paid $40 near the Golden Gate. $0 throughout. The park. Historic dairy farms dot the landscape. Fog rolls through like special effects someone ordered but forgot to pay for. Now, Point Reyes proves great alternatives exist for overpriced attractions. But what about wine country? Turns out Napa isn't your only option there either. Now let's talk about wine country that won't drain your bank account. Paso Robles sits 3 hours south of Napa, and the difference hits you immediately. Tasting fees run $15 to $25, often waived entirely if you buy a bottle. I did the math once. Same amount of wine in Napa costs triple. But here's what really matters. Over 200 wineries spread across these rolling golden hills. We drove around on a Saturday afternoon in October, peak season supposedly, and walked into 3 different tasting rooms completely empty. Just us and the person pouring. No reservations, no waiting, no attitude. And that person pouring, frequently the actual winemaker. My wife asked a question about fermentation at one spot, and the guy who answered literally made the wine in the building behind us, showed us the barrels, introduced us to his dog. Try getting that experience at some corporate Napa operation where the wine educator is reading from a script. The wines themselves earn serious respect. Critics consistently rate Paso Robles Rhone-style reds alongside Napa's best. Zinfandel, Syrah, Grenache, bold stuff that punches way above its price point. Downtown feels like wine country before it got fancy. Walkable tasting rooms mixed with genuine cowboy bars, family restaurants where the owner might seat you. I had a steak dinner with a good local bottle for what one Napa lunch costs. Hotels and Airbnbs run 40 to 50% cheaper here. Weekend trips become actually possible instead of requiring a second mortgage. Makes sense, right? Same quality wine, nicer people, less traffic, more authentic experience, fraction of the cost. But if you want to skip wine entirely and experience something truly wild, California hides islands most people forget exist. Now here's where California gets weird, in the best way possible. 60 miles off the Ventura coast sit 5 islands that most Californians have never visited. The Channel Islands. Only 400,000 people make the trip each year. Yosemite gets 4 million. Do the math. And honestly, the islands are just as stunning. The boat ride takes about an hour and costs $60 round trip. That's it. That tiny barrier keeps out the flip-flop crowd who want everything handed to them. What you get instead is volcanic rock, sea caves, and wildlife that acts like humans don't exist. Speaking of wildlife, the island foxes here evolved without predators. They're found nowhere else on Earth, and they'll walk right up to you like you're a mildly interesting shrub. No fear whatsoever. It's like meeting a cat that actually likes people. But here's what really sets these islands apart. There's nothing on them. No gift shops, no overpriced burger stands, no cell service. Your phone becomes an expensive camera, and that's it. When's the last time you went somewhere that forced you to actually be present? The kayaking through sea caves carved into ancient volcanic rock delivers more adventure than any mainland beach ever could. You're paddling through formations that took millions of years to create. Meanwhile, tourists at Santa Monica are paying $15 to ride a rusty Ferris wheel. Camping spots cost $15 a night. 15. You fall asleep under completely unpolluted skies while harbor seals bark somewhere below. Try getting that experience at a $300 Napa hotel. California has plenty of famous spots that disappoint, but it also has hidden places that exceed every expectation. You just have to know where to look.